Hello, hello. Hello, YouTube. We're going to get into a live. As per usual, this live is mostly for Instagram, but doing a lot of watch later stuff. People like YouTube better. But if you're here but you don't know my Instagram, most of my content goes there. And hello, Instagram. So today, we're going to try a Mao Feng. And this is actually, it's kind of a funny story. So when I first came to China, and I first started working, I started working in Twinshi, Huangshan, July 2017. And I'm meeting my coworkers, and we're getting to know each other. We're talking teas, and my coworker was like, "Oh yeah, my family makes tea. I'll bring you some." I was like, "Great," and then she never did, because she just said it in passing. She's being friendly. And so the other day, I was joking with her because we've become good friends since, and I was like, "Hey, I'm still waiting for that tea you promised me 4 years ago." And she laughed, and then about 2 days later, she brought it. And the fun thing is, and here's what gets fun. So it's from some village in Yixian, some unknown whatever village, And so if we're looking at the leaves, and actually they look some of them look a little better here, but it's not looking too great. When I first opened the bag, I was kind of like, yeah, okay, sure, like basic, machine made, whatever tea, yada yada. But then I did some grandpa style as I'm teaching class, and I was just like, whoa, what is this? Hello, nurse. I actually don't. I gotta give that a rinse. I'm not sure how clean that was. And it was surprisingly good, actually. And within limits. But so what we're gonna do today is we're gonna do it a little more tasting style. All right, so let's just take a quick look at these leaves first as my water cools. First things first, you notice it's very straight. And this is generally the shape that I tend to avoid. I talk a lot about this shape, the very straight, where the leaves and the buds are kind of acting on their own and they're not together. Because if you think about making, this is really for any tea with buds and leaves. If it moves during the making, it's going to come together. If it's handmade, if it's turned in a machine, you're never really going to get leaves that throughout the making manage to stay individual. They're always at one point going to get pushed together, especially when they're fresh and they're full of oils. If they get pressed together during the beginning of the making, they're more or less going to stay like that. There may be a little bit, and so that is always my biggest sign of machine made. These never came together. And generally I assume this is from a machine where there's like these channels, and this tea is laid on, is poured onto this tray, and it's gone down, and it gets bounced back and forth. And it may flip a little bit, but at no point is there ever kind of this rolling. At no point is a tea ever turned, so it never sticks to itself. It's just kind of laid flat and pushed down like this. So that's that. And generally, you get this lower qualities, bad fields, yada, yada, yada. And this is, everyone in Twinshi knows this. Whenever you're talking tea in Huangshan, and you're talking about flavors, at one point, someone's going to bring up this type. But, so, that's a really, really interesting thing. So, like I said, right off the bat, there is the shape. The shape was not very, didn't get me excited. I was wary about the shape, But then I tasted it and I was like, whoa. Because here's the thing, when you have teas that look like that, usually they don't have flavor. They're dead. They're empty. They're sweet, but that's basically it. It's basically sweet water. And so, but even now, like I'm smelling a little something, and that's the interesting part. It actually smells pretty good. You know, I'm getting that pork fat, like not, and this it's interesting because this one's not bacon. There's not so much smokiness in this. This is like Hongxiao Ro sort of pork fat, or like pork belly. If you think about the, instead of like thin sliced bacon, and that's so you get that kind of crispiness, this is like cooked pork belly, where it's just a more full, a more rich fattiness. But the interesting thing is that there's any of this flavor at all. Because once again, judging by the look, I would have assumed that it was basically flavorless. And I asked her, so it turns out it's not her family who makes it, or maybe it's like her uncle. She said it's her uncle. But in Chinese, you call, uncle can be a respectful term. And so, you know, somebody who is older than you, who you like, you call them uncle. Hello, Heidi. Heidi, I am still looking into your package. Right now, Shopify is not letting me access my website. They're having technical problems. I will say that somebody whose tea I sent out at the same time as you just received their tea. So I am looking into it. I will look into it more, but there's a good chance it could be coming soon. Things slowed down for a little bit there. So let's go. We are tasting a Mao Feng. I really just threw a lot of leaves in there. Like as I was talking, I just kept adding more and more and more. And now there's a lot of leaves. It tastes like Hui Sai. Hui Sai is the local cuisine here. It's actually one of the 8 famous cuisines of China, probably the least known one. Huangshan and the area kind of around Huangshan used to be known as Huizhou, with a really long and rich culture and history. And so Hui Sai is interesting because it's the type of, shouldn't I? So very, well, I should, and I will. That's just a very good point. I would have to, the problem is I get them off Taobao right now, and I haven't really found any ones I got really excited about. Like these are all a little bit too thick than I like. But you make a very good point. I should. Trying to think when's the next time I'm going to a bigger city. Because if I go to a bigger city, I can go like to their tea market and find shops that only do cheap teaware. I think that'd be the plan. I think that'd be the best thing. Let me finish my thing about this, and then we'll talk about the future of teaware. There's a couple of things I'm thinking about. So yeah, so Hui Sai is, and there's a lot of actually different Chinese cuisines based on this. The fact that China is very mountainous. And this is actually a very, very important thing to understand. The fact that China is so mountainous, whereas compared to like Europe is generally more flat, plays a lot into the various parts of Chinese culture, Chinese history, the development of technology. Just the fact that, anyway, that's a whole other thing. But what that means a couple of things. First of all, this is one of the main reasons China doesn't have too much cows. China doesn't, obviously some places have beef, but southern China cuisine is more pork-based. It's because pigs need a lot less room. You can't really raise a cow in a mountainous area. And also the vegetables, The vegetables have to be vegetables that you can grow in smaller plots of land. This is why you don't see so much of like corn, because corn, you need rows and rows. Anyway, I digress. So, huizhou cai can be, it's oily, it's fatty, it's oily, it's very rich, but then they will add some vegetables and some chives and scallions, a little bit of that spice, a little bit of that crispness. And that's the aroma I'm getting here. This like oiliness, but there is a little bit of a to it. What's going on, Zeke? Was good. Right now we are tasting a Mao Feng that has caught me by surprise. I'm making myself hungry. All I've had to eat today is a mango. Granted, it's not even 11 o'clock, so I have time, but fun thing, by the way, I should have taken videos. There wasn't much to take videos of. I went down to Hubei the other day. I went down to Enshi. Really good food down there. I will say, I'm going to go on a small rant here, and then we'll talk about teaware. One of the things that's hardest about coming from a place like New York City to a place like Huangshan is that so much of the food here is so localized. It's a lot of the local food and not much of else. You know, New York, you have Mexican, Japanese, Chinese, Italian, Russian. You know, there's a Russian place next to an Italian place next to Burger King. Here you have a little bit of different stuff, but it's generally the local stuff. All right, let's check this out. So we're tasting, for those of you just joining, we're tasting a Mao Feng that has the potential to really catch me by surprise. If you look at the shape, it's the general shape that I usually talk down upon. But this one grandpa style is pretty good. You know, it's definitely richer. You know, there is something clearly lacking. There is that thing that got people excited about the Monkey Valley and the Chashan, and you know, that savory, thick, like the thing that's really I talk about a lot. It's there, but not very strong. It's not very developed. So there's something clearly missing. But at the same time, okay, yeah, that's fine. Sorry, I got messages. At the same time, no, don't give him hood bien. Okay, I got vet stuff. At the same time, okay, that's fine. Yeah, okay. Dog ownership in China is very, very different. My vet is sending me like 6 messages because my dog has a runny nose. It's fine. It's a dog. It's a runny nose. Anyway, there's so it's there. It's not without savoriness, and that's the first important thing to mention. It's not without savoriness. The savoriness is much more mellow and much more not even subtle, because subtle infers some sort of complexity and some sort of quality. Like this is just not as much there, but it's interesting because even though it's turned down a lot, it's actually very balanced. The flavors that are also in this tea are very balanced. And so you know, and I talk about, it's sort of like when I talk about wuishans, talk about the roast in wuishans. The roast in a wuishan needs to be complementing. You know, the roast is not the flavor. It needs to complement the natural flavor of the leaf. And this is why I don't like a lot of overly roasted wuishans or under roasted wuishans. The focus is too much on the roast, it seems, and the roast haven't complemented the natural flavor. All the flavors in here, though they're a touch lacking compared to the cha shans and all the ones that are on the website now, they're actually complementing of each other. They actually come together quite nicely. They actually, it's kind of just like, oh, okay, yeah. You know, I'm not blown away. I'm not like, oh my God, great tea. Oh yeah. But I'm like, okay, this is actually like, it's like a nice small talk conversation. You're like, you know, you're sitting at the bus stop. That's actually what's going through my head. I think this could be that. And because that was the thing that, you know, I a couple of people had asked for that, but a couple of people asked for like an affordable, lower priced Mao Feng, which would be amazing. There was no argument here, but I didn't want to give lower and then bad quality. You know, I didn't want flavorless lower, because then somebody buys the lower price, it has no flavor, and they go, oh, I don't like Mao Feng. For the price, I still wanted to give something. And I think this achieves that. I think this achieves that quite nice, quite well. I gotta type. I'm gonna reach behind. Gotta send a quick message soon. Let's get into the second steep. I think the second steep is really going to be that deciding area. You know, is it? And you know, it's not without its flaws. I also want to make that clear too. There's a touch of smoke. There's a touch of smoke. There's some bitterness. Bitterness came out a little bit more. The smoke came out a little bit more there. It is a little lacking. You know, the flavor, you know, it's not subtle. The flavor is just small. There's not as much flavor. That's actually, but I really do think that this could be a contender. And I do have some lower price point stuff. All the other cha shans just came in, which is the other thing I have to do in the next 2 days is do the cha shans on the website, if my website will load. And so they're all going to be more affordable teas. But these teas get affordable because the picking is later and it's more vegetal. It's like stronger. It's more affordable, but it's losing some of that lightness. This can be affordable while still maintaining that lightness. It's very, very interesting. It's a very, very interesting tea. It also might be interesting as a side-by-side, just to show like what I think there's something here. I think there's something to selling this. good intro to Mao Feng, like a good side by side with some of the more expensive ones, just to understand quality a little bit more. You know, you sometimes I always talk about drinking really expensive stuff because even if you drink the expensive stuff, to understand why something is good, you kind of need to have to taste something that's less good. A lot of people are buying the samplers and they're loving the samplers, but I think once they try a Mao Feng that's not as good, some of the the other teas are really going to click more. They're going to be like, oh, okay, now I see the benefit. That's similar. I was talking on one of my last lives. I had a nice scotch. My friend gave me a nice bottle of scotch. And I'm not, I enjoy a drink, but I wasn't really a scotch person. But I had the bottle, I drank the whole bottle, just a glass every night. And then I went to buy just a normal scotch. And then it was that moment of, I had the normal scotch, but now I had this full bottle of Lagavulin, good stuff. I'd had this, and now it put everything else in perspective. I was like, okay, now I see why this is cheaper and all that. And the vice versa can be true. And so that's why I think comparisons are very, very important. And I think this tea may offer a lot of opportunities for comparisons. Yeah. I think there's something here. I gotta talk to my friend. I gotta see if it's, first of all, I have to see if there's any left. Can I get more? How much? Yeah, but I think it's very, very interesting. I think it's warm. It's just warm and it's lively. I think that's the other thing. It's warm, it's lively, it has some characteristics. Once again, not perfect, but I think a good bang for your buck. I think, and I'll try to figure out. I'll try to figure out what's a good price. It's gotta be. I'll see. Easy single digits, definitely. Maybe. I'll figure it out. I got some thinking to do. I gotta see what other people have on their websites. Yeah. Wonderful. Chashan samplers are coming up soon. I think they're on the website, but I wouldn't look into them yet because I need to confirm prices. That's my goal by tomorrow night. That is my goal, to have that done. I will. Okay, I'm coming right now. I will talk to my friend about this. Heidi, I will look into your thing again. Hopefully, I'm just having internet problems. But yeah. All right, guys. Thank you. Well, that's my Instagram. I always put the phone in front of the camera. Yeah. So that was a good tea, actually. That's it's funny. Right now, my brain is connecting dots. My brain is like, okay, so if this is this, then this is that, and how does this? I kind of have to like change. This tea kind of makes me change my understanding of Mao Feng, because it used to be that like there was like this, and below this line there was nothing. It was that, don't even ignore it. Below, if it looks like this, don't even bother. But now I'm here and I'm like, okay, wait, this looks like this, but bother. But actually enjoy this. Okay, so now the question becomes, and I asked, and she said she didn't know, what was the making? What was the making? What was the fields like? If I were to take a guess, I would guess that the fields are really good. And that, and this is, if I were to take a guess, I would think that this is an example of tea with good terroir, good soil, good weather, but basic making, like not very fancy making, still being good. Tea from a good location, there's natural flavors that are going to be there. you don't have to put in as much work to bring out good flavors as opposed to tea that comes from a not so great terroir, not so great location. You'd have to work a little bit harder to bring out these good flavors. So if I were to take a guess, and I'm purely guessing, this is a tea that the making is not, so the making is pretty quick, pretty basic. You know, someone's kind of, I have fields, let me make some tea. Doesn't expect to sell it, doesn't expect to make any money, but the fields are good. And he just happens to have good fields, or maybe the best stuff, maybe the best stuff is sold already. Maybe he does make good tea, or he or she, maybe they do make good tea, but they've sold the best stuff, and this is what they're drinking. Which just means a whole nother mess of conversations. Whole lot of questions from my coworker. A lot of questions. But thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed this. Nathan, hope you enjoyed this. Today I will be paying for some more Hokwe. So definitely expect some Hokwe videos coming up. I never talked about teaware. I'm gonna start. So my plan is that right now I'm focusing on buying teas and searching for teas and really getting my tea stuff cemented, tea catalog cemented. But then the goal is in about September, I think my plan is, I'm gonna start focusing on teaware. You know, it's kind of like a seasonal thing. Like once the tea season has calmed down and everything's been bought, I'm gonna focus on teaware. And my plan is actually to have 2 levels of teaware: nice teaware and cheap teaware. Because I am a huge fan of cheap teaware. Love cheap teaware. Where's my cheap cup? I have cheap tea. I mean, this was cheap. This was really cheap. You know, this is like 3 kwais. It's like 50 cents. I usually drink from. This was cheap. Love cheap teaware, and because I think it allows you to focus on the tea, to have teaware but still focus on the tea. So I'm gonna have, but at the same time I do love nice teaware. This was not cheap. Behind me, it's a little dark, is some tea that was not cheap. So on my website, I want to have both. I want to have areas for nice teaware, and I want to have areas for cheap teaware. Yeah, that's going to be fun. I look forward to that. That's going to be September. That's going to be September once, you know, the teas. Hopefully my goal is also the Mao Fengs to be basically gone by September. The handmade Shishian is already basically gone. That's it. That's it. The 100% handmade Mao Feng, that's all that's left. You're looking at it. That's got to be 3 ounces. I would say there's about 100 grams of the handmade Mao Feng left. The Hogu, there's about, I would say, a little less than a pound. But that's moving. I don't have to last till September. The Chashan, the first pick is basically gone. The second pick is pretty low. And I'm going to see if I can re-up on the first pick because I want people to get into some samplers. But I expect by September, picks 1, 2, and 3 to be gone. And then the later picks, which have a better shelf life anyway, those will last through the year. So definitely, if you haven't gotten on the Mao Fengs, definitely get on the Mao Fengs. Definitely get on that sampler. That sampler is wonderful. And then, yeah, come September, I'm going to be focusing on teaware. I actually don't know where I'm going to be in September. I may be in Huangshan, I may be in Enshi. Or, I mean, God, at this rate, you never know. It may be something completely different. Things are kind of up in the air right now. But thanks for watching. Subscribe, check out my other videos. Yeah. Check out I gotta say, I did like the Hogu video. I had a lot of fun filming the Hogu video this year. Definitely check that out. Bye-bye. I dropped my phone.